This week's Torah portion is entitled Mishpatim. Last week, we read Parshat Yisro, in which we were told and we recounted and experienced along with the Jewish people the mass revelation of God at Mount Sinai. God revealed himself to the people. They were blown away. They had an amazing experience, a beyond normal, a supernatural, nothing like it will ever happen again. God gave the first of the 10 commandments to the Jewish people, who they heard the thunder and they saw the lightning, and they heard the lightning, and it's all like a huge experience of revelation of God. Literally, God's peeling back the barriers that prevent us from seeing God, and God revealed himself to the whole of the Jewish people. Every single person had this transcendent, supernatural experience of God at Sinai. This week's Torah portion begins with the words va'ele, begins with the letter vav, which is a connector. It's a hook. It's going to bring along what we experienced last week from the revelation of Sinai to this week, where we learn about the Mishpatim, we learn about the laws, we learn about the mitzvot, we learn about ordinances. Very mundane interactions between people. How do people get on with each other? How do we deal with personal injuries? How do we deal with compassion towards each other? How do we deal with people who are our slaves? Or there was such a thing as a Hebrew slave, which I'm not going to go into, but they were released in the seventh year. They were set free, and they were treated very, very kindly and very compassionately. We learn about the laws of protecting property. We learn about the injunctions to be compassionate to the stranger, to not oppress the stranger, to be kind to the widows, to the downtrodden, to the immigrants, to the orphans. We're taught how to live our lives. We had a transcendent experience. God revealed himself to the Jewish people. It was a huge transcendent experience. Now, how are the people supposed to connect? Last week we spoke about that being a kiss from God. God's kissing the Jewish people, raising us up, having a relationship. I want a relationship with you, Jewish people. How do we have a relationship back with God? And we're going to learn about it right away, right after the revelation, the Parsha that speaks about the revelation. We're going to learn about it in this week's Parsha, Mishpatim. We're going to learn how to do it. Here's how you do it. You heal people. You take care of people. You return lost property. You don't charge people loans. You're honest. You don't bear false witness, etc., etc. In this week's Torah portion, we have 52 ordinances, 52 Mishpatim, 52 mitzvot. The word mitzvah means connection. It's a way for us to connect to God. The word Torah, in the middle of that word Torah, is ora, is light. So God is giving us the gift of mitzvot, of ordinances. When you're interacting with each other, people in your lives, mundane lives, it's not mundane. It is anything but mundane. We're bringing out the or, we're bringing out the light. When I return a lost object, because I know that's a mitzvah, I'm bringing the light out. I'm bringing God into that equation. When I'm kind to my parents, when I'm kind to the stranger, when I don't oppress people, when I heal people, when I'm unloading the donkey of my enemy, I'm helping people, I'm giving, then I'm bringing light out into the world. Then I'm unpacking the light that's packed into the Torah that God kissed us with last week. And we're on some level maybe kissing back. We're kissing back by doing the mitzvahs, by saying, I want to connect. I'm yearning for that connection. It says in the Gamora that we are not to be like cows chewing our cud. We're not to be just going through life chewing the grass and regurgitating it and doing it by rote and chewing and regurgitating and chewing and swallowing and regurgitating. It's boring and it doesn't taste good and we're just regurgitating the old grass. We're not supposed to do that. In this week's Torah portion, God says to Moses, lay out, set before the Jewish people the mitzvot, the ordinances, like a banquet, like a smorgasbord, like a table that we want to eat from, that we're eager to eat from because we want that connection. God's kissed us, but we want to kiss back. How do we kiss back? We kiss back by doing the mitzvahs. We kiss back by bringing the light out from these interactions. Where is God? Wherever we let him in. God is in the interactions between people. As much as it's we know that it's in the interaction between us and God, when we light Shabbat candles, when we observe the Shabbat, when we do things that are the mitzvahs, that are the commandments, that are connections between us and God. There's also these ordinances between us and other people, and in that space between people, that's where God exists. And when we do it, we're bringing out the light. And what joy is there in that? There's joy in giving, and there's a joy in wanting to be able to bring out that light. That's where joy. So joy is actually a verb. It's a do. How do I bring joy? By doing the mitzvahs, by being kind, by being compassionate, by following the laws of the Torah, bringing out the light. This week's Torah portion, this week we also read about the donation of the half shekel. It's one of the additional readings that we read starting 4 weeks before Passover. We start reading these 4 different special readings, and this week we read about the half shekel. So as a half shekel, everybody was asked to bring a half shekel to the temple in Jerusalem. And Moses was shown by God under his heavenly throne. He pulled out, God says, and it says in our sages tell us that God pulled out a fiery half shekel and showed it to Moses and said, this is what the people will bring when the temple's built. This is their contribution to the temple, a shekel. So 2 messages. One is the half is that we can't do everything alone. We can't be everything. We can't do everything. We need other people. We are only part of a whole, but we have to do our bit, and we have to help other people do their bit. So then together we'll make the whole. So the idea of the half shekel is that we need the other people, that we're part of something. We're not complete without everybody else. That together we're going to bring the completion. Number 1, and number 2, it's a fiery shekel. It's got passion. It's got light. It's got heat and energy. Don't be like the cow, be like the fiery shekel. Don't be bored and rote and chewing and mundane and Recognize that our daily lives are infused with holiness, that God is right here. At Sinai, God was in the transcendent. God was revealing himself to the masses. It was a huge light and sound show and thunder and lightning, and it was beyond anything we're going to experience. But we also understand, because these 2 parshas are juxtaposed, the va'ela, these mishpatim, these ordinances were also revealed at Sinai. And when we unpack them in our lives, we're bringing the light out, and we're bringing the light out. I had a conversation with a friend today who's taking care of a couple of people in her home are sick, and I pointing out to her that by taking care of her sick daughter and her sick partner, that she's doing holy work. She's bringing light into the world. She's raising everything. The whole world's being raised up by her taking care of these people in her home. Mothers who are taking care of their children at home, they're getting bored. They don't want to do the laundry again. They don't want to keep cooking, whatever. You're feeding the hungry and you're clothing the naked, and you're doing holy work. So if we can reframe what we're doing, and we can understand that in the mundane, in our daily lives, we have opportunities all the time to unpack the Torah, to unpack the light that's trapped in that Torah through the mitzvahs that are our connections to each other and to God. That when we do that, we are on some level kissing God back. He kissed us by this revelation, by giving us the Torah, by telling us how to live our lives. So by raising us up, giving us the opportunities to connect, and they're here for us, and we can choose to take them or not. We're the catalysts. The Jewish people are known to be the chosen people. Perhaps we could also describe ourselves as the catalysts for bringing out the light in the world, for bringing godliness, the one God, bringing that knowledge to the world by how we act, what we do, and by doing it but simcha, doing it with joy. So where is God? Perhaps the title of this little schmooze is, where is God? Wherever you let him in, wherever you recognize God, wherever you feel that whenever you're doing something that is a connection, that is completing the circuit. God's saying, be honest in court. When we're honest in court, because God told us to be honest in court, because that's what brings out light in the world. We're bringing light into the world. So please God, we should recognize these opportunities in our everyday mundane world that we live in, and the day-to-day interactions with other people, that we have amazing opportunities to bring light out, to bring godliness in, and God is in that space between us as much as he's in the higher worlds, and he's in the synagogues, and he's in the on the Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. He's also in our homes, and he's also in the space between people. So where is God? Everywhere and wherever we let him in.